Hey YouTube, and thank you for watching Junkworks DIY Garage. Well, today we got a couple boxes in front of us. Probably can't read that because of the sun. But that says 1 of 2, and that says 2 of 2. So in these two semi-little boxes, I was expecting more, is one of those Harbor Freight trailers. Well, first snafu already, and we haven't even opened, well, we opened one box. We had to put it back together because, as you can see, this little box is the frame, and it's the 40.5 by 48 frame. So we're supposed to have the bigger one. That is the right box there, 48 by 96. So that's what I read when they threw the stuff in and thought, okay, we're good, but we're not. So pay attention when you get yours. Now I'm hoping the Harbor Freight by me has it, because I had to drive quite a ways to get this one. So all right, see you when I get back. Well, we got the right box, and as I imagine, it is a much larger box. So make sure if you're getting the 4x8 trailer, you get a fairly large box. Let's pull this out of here and see what we got. It doesn't look like much in camera, but we got it all out of the boxes. It's got the wheels, fenders, the springs, some casters over there. Everything appears to be here. And I will say, nice note on Harbor Freight. It comes with all the nuts and bolts, hopefully, that we need. Those are for the stake pockets for like 2x4s or putting the sides on. And then actually they're all labeled. Hex bolts, obviously. Chain, obviously. But right here it says spring axle, so you know all this stuff goes to the axle and we got hinges. The first pieces. So you'll notice these ones are the ones that have an angle on the end. This front one has these little doodads on it. Side one has those, and then there's several of these that are all the same. So we got this first part buttoned up here. Couple things. There's supposed to be 3 bolts, side, like one on the side, one on the bottom, and one on the top in these front. The middle one only has nuts and bolts in the bottom, according to this, and over here. And then in these corners, we got this plate, which is like the hinge, because this is folding. Yet again, I'm not going to probably ever fold this trailer up, so at some point I'm going to make a long plate that goes between the two. But for now, to put this together the way it's supposed to be and show you guys how it's supposed to go, I'm going to go ahead and put it together the way it's supposed to be. But regardless, you put this hinge piece on with these 2 bolts, and that's it. I will say that this was difficult. It kept wanting to move, so I went ahead and put one in the bottom of each of these for now on the back corner here. Okay, one other side note. The bracket down there, the hinge bracket, one of them, this one on the front, on this first part that we put together, the front one here does not have, as you can see, this has kind of like a bend in it. So that one is flat. It's the flat one goes on the front. So down here on the bottom, I went ahead and put a nut and bolt on there just to hold this in place while I was tightening everything up. Now this is usually, you want to put all these in loose at first, then kind of snug them up but not super tight, and then you're going to want to take and go from corner to corner this way, corner to corner this way, and once you get that measurement perfect both ways, I admit I'm about a 1/16 off one way or the other, but that's good enough for me anyway right now. But anyway, once you get those all done, then go ahead and tighten everything up really good. You're probably going to have to do it 2 or 3 times, kind of measuring back and forth, because things will move a little bit on you. Another tip, I do have it up on 2x4s and a couple of 4x4s. 4x4s are nicer because these 2x4s tend to tip sometimes. But regardless, you're going to want to put it up on something, just because with the little brackets that are on the bottom of this, it doesn't want to play nice sometimes. The other thing I talked about, I did not put the bolts in the top here yet, because I remember from my other 2 trailers that I have, that always, the plywood always sticks up a little bit in the corner. It always bugged me. So what I'm going to do when it's all done and I put the piece on here, a piece of plywood or whatever I'm getting, I will then put the bolts through and use that to hold the plywood and everything down. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put these in here like that. And right there and there, you got the pin in the front and there's a bolt in the back. So I'll go ahead and show you those up close so you know which ones you need. Alright, so this is what we're putting together here, the A-frame part. So in the front, that just comes with a pin that pulls out and a cotter pin. Alright, well, we got to the front here and I've realized I have made a mistake. I thought these bolts would hold on the hitch part there, but it's actually the shoulder bolts that go through there, which are smaller. And I would have assumed there were shoulder bolts in this one because it's supposed to pivot. And usually when things pivot, they will mess up threads, but to each their own. I'm not going to use the pivoting part, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But I was incorrect. It's these bolts that go in there. I'm going to have to change those out and get those on the hitch. Alright, so we got the cross piece here on. Now that goes underneath the top part here. A couple bolts there. And then there's a bottom plate there that goes on the very bottom. And then this piece here that goes on the top of that. Then on top of here, we will be putting the bolts back part on. My son did. And it's pretty much the same as that front part there. It's just those two different sides. These sides here are a little bit different than those sides there. Basically those just have the brackets on them and these ones don't. You want to make sure on this side there's a hole right here. On that side there is not. There's just the two holes for the hinge piece here. So there's that. And yet again, you're supposed to put a bolt on all three sides here. Just in the bottom there, and just that hinge holds on that front piece there. So I did put the bolt on the side and the bottom, but not on the top here. The way I'm using this trailer, I'm not going to spend time putting an extra bolt in for you all to see that you put an extra bolt in there. I am not going to need it there. So in fact, it needs to not be there when I do what I'm going to do with it. Something else. There's these here. They're stake pockets. I am not putting those yet again on this trailer here because of how I'm going to use this trailer. So I don't want those on there. Those you can put them on anytime you want when the trailer's done or as you go along. In the instruction it shows you put them on as you go along, but it doesn't appear that there's any reason for that. Also these brackets here are only if you're going to fold it up and stand it in a corner somewhere. That's what these are for. There's casters that goes with these, which I also am not going to use because I'm not planning on ever folding this trailer up. So, and we got the trailer upside down here. Here's something else I am not going to use, but you may want to, is the license plate cover. Now you can put that, technically is supposed to go down below. Now every time I've ever put them on like this, I end up wiping out the license plate, so I've always used them up top like that. So yes, this is on the bottom, but the trailer is upside down. But anyway, I usually put them like that rather than sticking downward. But yet again, this is where you need to figure out your laws, and in my state you're supposed to have your license plate lit on a vehicle. I don't know about a trailer, but anyway, these lights actually have a little light on the bottom of them that's gonna light up the ground underneath it. So I may cover that up so that it's not so noticeable, but regardless, I'm going to use the old ones, and I put them on my fenders on one side or the other, just to get them out of the way. Otherwise, I promise, just back here they get wiped out. We got the front completely done, we got the back completely done. Now here's where the instructions tell you to put everything together and flip it over. My back is telling the instructions to go to heck because I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. I found a few more 4x4s I can put under both areas so that they can be up off the ground. That is one thing. The 4x4s also help you put the nuts and bolts in the bottom part too. So little tip there. But regardless, we're gonna go ahead and flip the front over, flip the back over, put this thing upside down, and then start hooking it together. Got this all flipped around. We got it all put together. 2 bolts in the middle, and the hinges are all put together here. That bolt nut and that bolt nut need to come out back out again. I put those on there because it was kind of hard to get this to tighten up. It kept wanting to pivot forward. So we put those on when we first put this front frame together, but now we have to take those back out and before we can put those on because it's hitting right there. Now we got this on here. The way you can tell what side it is those go towards the back, these things here. And then also there's a space that goes around the hinge right here. But the biggest thing on these is that this bolt right here and this nut and bolt right here are your normal ones that you've been putting the rest of the trailer mainly together with. This one here is the bigger, longer ones of those. I think they're the M25s or something, and I think these are M20s. But anyway, there's a couple of bigger, longer ones. And so far there's only been 2 of those in that package. Then the other ones that hold this on is a carriage bolt right here and a carriage bolt in the back on the side right here. Why they do that, I don't know, but that's where those are supposed to go. Side note, make sure you put all the pieces in there by hand first, all the nuts and bolts in there by hand first. Otherwise, you might, if you tighten them one up and don't get other ones in, because of the 2 kind of separate parts of this, you know, they aren't perfectly flat. So you want to make sure you get them all in there and suck them all down. I will say I am just dead on square from corner to corner. I did measure that. You might want to check that before you start putting these together. Once you've got them kind of bolted together and have the hinges on, check from corner to corner, corner to corner, and see if you're real close. If there's something way off, then you might need to go back and find out what's going on and get it all square, because by now you should be able to bolt it together and it should be fairly square. Alright, now it's time for the springs. As you can see, I already got one in here. There's only one there. But so in that package that comes with the axle kit comes these, the big nuts and bolts. There should be 4 of those. And you want the eye part on the front where the hole is, and the open part in the back here where that bracket is there. Also, something else right here would be the time where you'd already have put on these pieces right here. You would have put those on already and put in your wheels, but yet again, not using those, only done by hand. We don't want to tighten those up yet. And then we're going to take the axle, and on the bottom of the axle there's a hole right there, and over there. Those, you need to line those up with these pieces right here that are sticking out of the spring. So we're going to do that. And as you can see, we got the axle on, and we got the U-bolts on here. So you got the U-bolts and the plates down here and the nuts, which are all in that little bag of axle stuff. And the secret of these is just basically slowly tighten them down a little bit at a time until all those nubbies are about the same all the way around and very tight. That is one thing I'm going to say. There is no torque specs or anything like that with this, so you all have to decide how tight is tight enough. On the bolts for the springs, those are still loose. So we got all this tightened up except for those. Now we can come back and we can tighten these. And those are 19 millimeter on both sides, both the nut and the bolt. As you might can tell, this is higher off the ground, and we got some jack stands over here because I didn't want to set it on top of this and get it all mangled up. I want to try and keep it as nice as I can. So anyways, this just made it so we could put these on. Because I realized to flip it over, we're definitely going to want the tires on, and you can't put these on after the tires are on. But there you go. These are just the regular nuts and bolts that you've been putting all the rest of the trailer together. So it is time to start running wires with a wiring diagram. I gotta say the instructions have been pretty okay. So this is with the trailer facing up. So as it would sit with, this is the top of it here. Right now I got mine yet again upside down, so it's inverted. But regardless, you would go down the passenger side or right side frame rail, split it here, come up and across the front for your left side, and then come down here for your right side. So I believe the right side would be your green and, let's see here, yeah, green and brown wire, which I have on this side over here. And on the left side would be your yellow and brown wire, and those would go out that way. So instead of that, I think I actually am just gonna, since I'm not folding my trailer and needing to run it a certain way, I am just gonna run one side here, and keep on going straight back down the trailer. So that's my plan. You need to choose to do for yourself. We'll come back here to do. And I've actually already put these on as well, and these are in with your lights. And there's a box with your lights. They come with these here, which kind of hook on the frames and you stick your wires in. And not only do these scratch up the frames and cause rust, which I can testify to, but they also break your wire. My wires, every time I used these, the wires would break in that area. They mangle the wires, or they get like knock the coating off after a while and end up causing more problems than good. So therefore, I'm not going to be using these. I'm going to use like wire ties or things like that. End of the wire here. We got our ground wire here, and I've tried kind of scuffing this up with some I think 80 grit, and I've gotten down to the under the paint a little bit here, but it's pretty hefty paint that they put on here, surprisingly. But because that's the ground, in case you didn't know that, I need to grind a little bit more off here, so I'm just taking a flat disc here and we're going to do that. And I'm just winging this. This is where I decided and how I decided to do mine. You might get away with just hooking it to one of these, and it might ground just fine. But I have found one of the worst things about these trailers is half the time it's really hard to get a ground to be right. Even when the ground's wired in, which this trailer is not. This is the only ground you get. Comes with these here. These are not meant for automotive use or any off-road or on-road use. These are made for wiring up your house. It comes with these right here and these connectors right here. First of all, I hate these kind of connectors. Every time I've used these, I've had problems with corrosion. Doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. And in fact, and what you would do is your wires would be coming up here, and unlike what I have it now, and right here you have a couple of screws on here, and this will screw onto here. And then you'd wire this in to both sides. And these are just for, you'd have your ground, and then you'd wire it to the brown one, which is your running lights, I'm assuming must be. Because the brown one goes down both, so yeah, the brown will be your running lights. So therefore, when you turn your lights on, these will come on. Now, a couple things. You need to do your own research on this, and I have done this. In my state, if the trailer is shorter than a certain length, which this trailer is, you don't have to have these. Other states may not be that way, so you need to do your own research on that. Quite honestly, I've always put these on, and they end up quit working later on, and I end up just butt connecting the wires right here because I always have a problem with them, and they corrode and all kinds of problems that I have with them. So I'm not going to put them on this trailer. Now, if I have a problem later on down the road with police, then I'll deal with it then. But honestly, I've been running my trailers without these for over 10 years, maybe 15 years now, and I haven't had any problems. So Yet again, that'll vary depending on state to state. Like that, all nicely clamped up. Just put one up there. Came across here. Got another one there and there. Then we go all the way along to the back. And then I clamped all that up underneath there with some wire ties and stuff. Grommet through that hole, which yet again, you won't be able to do if you're planning on using the stake pockets. And these come out of here. Yet again, green to green, brown to brown. Well, now it is time to put these wheels on here. And something I noticed that weren't on my old ones, that does give you a Zerk fitting back here. I also noticed that trying to put grease in this, you could not get to it. It actually was loose on there. And I tried a 10mm, was actually too big, so it's a 3/8. And you're going to want to tighten that up so that you can get to it down the road when you need to. The first thing we need to do here is pop this cap off. There we go. So that is off. A little bit of pain and suffering. I don't know if you can see it, but there's definitely some grease sticking out there. There's coming out of each one of these. I don't know if you can see it, but there's plenty of grease in there. I'm okay with that. It's a stickier grease than I like, but as time goes on, my grease will replace it hopefully. And yeah, again, if I got problems later on down the road, you'll know. Get as much grease in there. I'm going to go back here while this is nice and easy to get to, and I'm going to hit it with my grease gun. Also going to clean this up because I did make a mess here. And you want to check the air, make sure your air pressure is the right pressure and all that. It's flipped over. Didn't exactly work out the way I planned. Had I actually put out the engine hoist out to the end, I think it would have been long enough to where it would have brought it down, but I just didn't think about it, and I keep it short to put it away in its spot and forgot to extend it. So therefore that didn't really work out great. Although I still think at least I didn't flip it over and flip it over, and it doesn't seem to have scraped anything up too awful bad. Maybe a little bit on the fender here, but that's going to be just the first of many coming. So I also put the wheel on this here. Quite honestly, I put it inside just trying to see. It'll work great for this way, but flipping it back and forth, it hits here or hits here. Quite honestly, these do not work real great on the sides, because when you put any weight on them, they tend to start twisting really bad. That's why I put it on the inside, to try and, you know, have this holding this up, but also the weight kind of tweaking that way. I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, that did not work because now I can't lock it in any direction. So for now, until I can modify that, I'm done with it. I'm going to modify it like I have another one where I put it in the middle. We'll have to mess with that some later on down the road, so keep an eye out for that. I'm a long way away from actually using this trailer. I'm going to pull it out, bring my other one in, and start tearing it apart to put with this one. But all in all, that is how you put one of these together. I know this was really long, and a lot of weird things happened, so hopefully I'll have a long and a short video of this. But regardless, that's pretty well it. You'd put your 4x8 sheet of plywood will fit on here. When you do that, you will have to cut around these, and if you want it to fold up yet again, you'll have to take out your nuts and bolts that hold these together here, and you'll have to cut your plywood where it'll fold. Which on one of mine, I believe, I had to kind of bevel it so that it would fold well, but yet again, I never fold them. I'm not going to fold it. It's never going to be folded. To the point I'll probably put some nuts and bolts in these where the pins are when it's all said and done. You'll see it. There's going to be a much larger build in the future on how I'm going to turn this into a dump trailer. So keep an eye out on that. I'm going to try and get it done as soon as I can, but life always gets in the way, as many of my videos. So that's it for this one. It's been more than long enough. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it's given you guys some information out there what you can do to put one of these together. They're really not that hard. They're fairly self-explanatory, and they come with everything. The worst part was, for some reason, and I never had this with the other two trailers, but the spindles, I believe, were just not machined quite to the right spec. Otherwise, I think all in all it went really well. Highly recommend changing the wiring stuff from what they use. That, I guarantee you, if you use the stuff they give you for the wiring system, it will corrode, break through, and have all kinds of problems. You just will. Regardless, there you go, now you know. Alright, thanks for watching Junkworks DIY Garage, where I'm proud to say I'm a jack of all and master of none. You all have a good one.